Hey guys, how you going? I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can stay motivated during your fitness or weight loss journey. Obviously, I've been through this myself. I see it in clients all the time, and I also get asked this all the time too. So I'm going to take you through all the tips and tricks that I've learned, which will hopefully get you motivated, but not only that, get you to your end goal in a nice, healthy and positive way. So without further ado, we'll get on into the video. Alright guys, grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea because this is going to be quite a long chatty video, and we're going to go straight into the first point, and the first one is understanding the basics. Now, if your goal is to lose fat, I have made a video on this where I cover these in more detail, which I'll link up in the description, little I box up here. But I'm going to quickly run through what that video says. So there's three main principles you want to think about if your goal is fat loss. Firstly, you want to think about your nutrition and being in a calorie deficit. Now, you can create a calorie deficit through physical activity being increased, but mainly you want to decrease the amount of calories you're consuming, putting yourself in what we call a calorie deficit. So if you want any more information about that, then head over to that video because that will give you a lot more detail, and hopefully you'll have a clear understanding of how nutrition works. So number one is being in a calorie deficit or your nutrition. Number two is move more, and that can be any form of movement. You don't have to do any specific exercises. Again, in that video, I go through certain types of training and why they may be beneficial or more beneficial than other types. But ultimately, if you're creating a calorie deficit through your nutrition, your exercise portion just can be anything you want. It's about getting stronger, healthier, happier, moving your body, becoming more functional, and just enjoying your training and making it more of a lifestyle thing. So first one, eat less. Second one, move more. The last one is stay consistent. And it kind of links into motivation a lot, and I kind of touch on it in that video, but this one will be a bit more in depth about how you can stay motivated. But consistency is going to be key. You're not going to see changes day to day. You might actually see increases in your weight on the scales, which we'll talk about later. Think consistency, think long term, and focus on your ultimate goal, your overarching goal, rather than making little goals and constantly tracking yourself day to day. So point number one is understanding the basics. Once you understand these three things and how they all interplay together, it makes it a lot easier to trust the process and trust that you know your body is going to react in a certain way, even if you're not seeing it day to day or week to week. So if you start eating a certain nutrition plan and a certain exercise program, and 1 week later you feel the same, or you've put on weight on the scales, these things aren't really very reliable markers to say whether it's working or not. And what you really need to do is understand that what you're doing is the right thing, and continue to eat in that calorie deficit, continue to move your body more, and be consistent with it. Turn up every single day and just keep doing it, and make it into a lifestyle that you enjoy, and stop focusing on the short term, and trust me, it will happen in the long term. So understand the basics, and hopefully that will keep you more consistent, and it will also help motivate you because you're not focusing on little things that are changing day to day, which are going to, it's inevitable, but you're focusing on what you're going to achieve in your life, where you're going to get to, that end goal, and when you're going to achieve it. Okay, tip number two, be realistic. So I see this all too many times with clients where they come in and they go, I'm going to start training 5 days a week, and I'm going to reduce my calories by quite a big amount, and I'm going to suddenly eat healthy and cut out all the foods I love, and I'm going to just go super, super hard. And it's fine if you can do that, that's fine. But honestly, I feel like that's setting yourself up for failure. I think making small changes, so potentially just changing your diet and just moving a tiny little bit more in that week rather than committing to doing 5 or 6 hard workouts, going from maybe doing no workouts at all, it's kind of setting yourself up just to stumble at the first block. So you can start by making small changes. If you're looking to go into a calorie deficit, for example, instead of just cutting out foods that you deem bad foods, there is no bad foods, but if you're cutting them out, and you just cut out everything you enjoy, and all the coffee was gone, all drinks, chocolates, whatever it is you like, pizza, it's all gone, and then suddenly you're upping your exercise levels, and you're doing workouts that you're probably not enjoying because you're doing them 5 days a week and having to drag yourself either to the gym or to your TV or whatever it is you're doing. You're just going to get bored, and you're going to just be like knackered, and you won't see the changes straight away. and it will demotivate you. So be realistic with the amount you take on, but also be realistic with your time frames. So I often see people, they want to lose weight as quickly as possible, or they want to get fit as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, our bodies are amazing, but they need time to adjust and they need consistency, like I mentioned in the previous point. So you need to give your body time to get to where you want to be. And like I say, this should be seen as a lifestyle and not just a short-term crash diet, quickly do some exercise, and then that will fix everything and you can go back to living how you lived before. You want to make changes that are going to be maintainable, sustainable for the rest of your life. This should be something enjoyable and good for you, not something that you're dreading and that's just going to be a temporary measure for you. So be realistic with your time frames. When I lost weight, I really didn't have a particular goal weight in mind. In fact, I don't think I've really ever had a goal per se, even with my training. I just kind of go with the flow. There's always things I'd like to achieve, but I just kind of work my way towards them, like ad hoc. I'm not really too fussed about it. But when I lost weight, I didn't really see much weight loss for around 6 weeks, I think, before I started seeing significant weight loss. But it didn't really bother me. I just stayed consistent with it. I kept thinking about the fact that it was just making me healthier. Some days I loved doing it, some days I was a bit meh, but I did it anyway. It was just like the new teeth brushing. It's something that you don't really like doing, it's not something you look forward to in your day, but it's good for you and it's important. So you kind of just do it anyway, and it's just a part of your routine, and that's what this now needs to become. So be realistic with your time frames, set yourself a long-term goal, and don't stress too much about reaching short-term goals. It is good to have little goals along the way, but ultimately you need to be looking much longer term in this, and that will keep you motivated rather than, again, just thinking, okay, short term, and then it's all going to go back together. This is going to be a hard slog just for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and trying to rush the process, because it's going to set yourself up for a bad mindset and ultimately suck your motivation dry. Well, it is getting hot in this room. I don't know if you can tell, but if I'm getting redder or my hair's getting frizzier, but it's getting warm in here. But anyway, we will continue. Point number 3, track your progress correctly. So what I mean by this is forget about the scales. Forget about your weight on the scales. Your weight on the scales is comprised of so many different factors that are going to change and alter every single day. And from the morning, from hour to hour even, like they're going to change all the time, and there is nothing more demotivating than someone who starts weighing themselves every single day and then you're losing, even if it's like 0.1 of a kilo, you lose 0.1 of a kilo, the next day you lose 0.1 of a kilo, and then you get back on the scales the next day and you've put on, or you've just maintained it, and you're just like, whoa. So I often get people who come up to me or they'll message me and they'll say, I've been exercising, I've been eating in a calorie deficit, but I've only lost 5 kilos or 10 kilos or whatever it might be. And my response to them is usually the same thing. If you took that situation and you'd come to me and said, I've been doing all these things and I've gained 5 kilos or 10 kilos, how would that make you feel? And usually the answer would be, yeah, I'd feel pretty rubbish, and that sounds like a lot of weight to have gained, or that seems quite significant. And then my response back to them is then, well, why is a significant weight loss not good enough for you? 5 kilos is amazing. 1 kilo is amazing. Maintaining your weight, if that's your goal, is amazing. You need to start shifting your focus and stop thinking more, and big, and everything needs to be like the best and biggest it can be. Progress is progress. And if you're tracking it correctly, that's going to be super, super beneficial for keeping you motivated, but not only that, but determined to reach your goal as well. So I'm not saying don't weigh yourself on the scales. I used to weigh myself, and I did get sucked into that cycle of weighing myself regularly just to see if I was getting to the point where I was weighing myself every single day, and I was starting to become a bit obsessive with it. Ultimately, it didn't really mean much, because I've had experiences in the past with clients and with myself where my weight's not changed, or my weight's actually increased, yet my physical, the space that my body takes up, so my measurements, have decreased. My clothes feel looser and I feel fitter and healthier. And those are the things that really you should be focusing on a lot more. So a really good one to start with is taking actual measurements of your body. So grab yourself a measuring tape. I used to do my waist, my hips, my thigh, my arm, my bicep, and my chest as well. And I do that every couple of weeks or every 4 weeks at the latest. And I saw significant decreases in that over time, but that didn't quite match up with what I was seeing on the scales, or it wasn't quite as significant on the scales as it was on the measurements. So that's the first one. Second one, please take progress photos. I can't say this enough. I didn't do this when I was starting to lose weight, people said to me, take progress photos, because if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. And I didn't do it because I've said this before, I couldn't bear the thought of looking at myself. I couldn't bear the thought of seeing a picture of me, just like standing in my underwear, standing against a wall. And I didn't do it until about week 6. And I still struggle to look at those photos. So it doesn't get easier, but please, I urge you, take progress pictures. It will say so much more than measurements will, than how you feel. So if you can take a photo, all you need to do is stand against a plain background, take one like this, take one to the side, take one from the back, put them in a folder, you don't ever have to look at them again, and leave it. And then do that every 4 weeks. And at the end of it, when you've got to wherever you want to get to, you will be so grateful that you did that. Please take progress photos. You don't need to look at them. You never need to show anybody them. But honestly, you will regret not taking them. So another good one is, how do your clothes feel? Your clothes are going to be a really good indicator of where your body's at if your goal is weight loss or fat loss. So if there's something that you wear regularly, like a pair of jeans or work clothes or something like that, you're going to know if they're a little bit looser or tighter and which areas they are. Now, just because they might feel a bit tighter in certain areas doesn't necessarily mean that you've gained weight. You might have gained muscle. So that's always something to consider. But overall, usually you can gauge quite a lot just from the way your clothes fit or the way you feel, if you're comfortable in them, if they feel a bit tight or loose. So that's a fantastic way of tracking them as well. Again, I didn't really notice any difference in my clothing sizes or anything like that for around 6-7 weeks. But then once I hit that mark, literally every single week I was having to get a smaller size in my jeans because they were just too big for me. It was crazy. It was like dropping. I was spending so much money. So how your clothes fit is going to be a really, really good one as well. And finally, track your fitness and also how you feel just day to day, generally your mood and all that sort of stuff. So if you are training and you're working on your fitness as well as trying to eat in a calorie deficit, which is, fantastic, then track your progress. So when I started out, I was so unfit. I couldn't do a push-up against the wall. I couldn't plank for 10 seconds. I couldn't even run 100 meters. But I did a fitness test that I found online, just a print-out sheet. I think it was run 100 meters, see how long it takes you, plank for the maximum amount of time, how many sit-ups can you do, that sort of thing. It's nice and simple. I just put all those in. It was pretty abysmal. I was pretty shocked, and I revisited it not very often, maybe once every 2 months. I revisited it, and when I first did it, I was shocked at how much my fitness had increased. It was crazy, and honestly, everything felt easier as well. So for example, mountain climbers were a no-go. I had no proprioception. I couldn't use my body or control it well at all. But after 2 months of training, my body it just felt easier to move and better. And honestly, that was such a motivator and just kept pushing me along, thinking, whoa, these are little things that I hadn't even noticed, because day to day you don't notice these things. So if you can track your fitness, which is super easy nowadays, you don't need anything special, you don't need to track your steps or anything like that. Just do a fitness test, a nice simple one at the beginning, and then do it again in a couple of months and see if you can hold that plank for a little bit longer, if you can do a few more mountain climbers, whether you can walk or run a little bit further. And that is going to go a long way to keeping you motivated as well. In terms of how you generally feel, do you feel happier? Are you sleeping better? Do you feel more control of your eating? Do you feel that you are less irritable? Do you feel healthier? There's so many different variables. So looking for little positives in that, just little changes that you've noticed make a big change overall. And so, we're not just looking at the aesthetic goal of weight loss, you're looking at all the other benefits that come along with it, and one of the main ones is going to be how it affects your lifestyle. If it will make your lifestyle better if you allow it to, and also how it's going to make your health better. The benefits of being a healthy weight and having a lifestyle that you love and decreasing stress and being functional and able to move your body is so important. And one more note on tracking your progress: try not to track too often. I know in the the world we live in now, it's so easy to track every single thing. Got people tracking their heart rates, how many steps they're taking, how many calories they're eating and burning, and all that stuff that comes with it. But try not to think about it too often, and try not to track your progress, aka your weight, your photos, your measurements, anything like that too often. You know, some people like to do it once a week. I think once a fortnight at a minimum. And the reason for this is because, you know, you will see fluctuations, and if you're trying to stay motivated and committed to your long-term goal, those fluctuations might just knock you off course, might catch you on a bad day and really just go, you know what, I'm giving in, this is not working, when you know it is. It's just that maybe that it was just too short a time frame. You know, like I say, our bodies are amazing, but you need to give them time and consistency. So try tracking once a month. You'll see bigger progressions than if you track day to day, and less fluctuations as well. So you'll be able to see the bigger picture, which will keep you on track to your goal. Okay, so the next one, this is just a quick one. Just set realistic goals. I personally didn't really have too many specific goals in mind. I just wanted to get healthier, lose some fat, get a little bit fitter, and it's kind of just tumbled on into what it is. I have had smaller goals on the way, like being able to do chin-ups and things like that, and I've worked towards them. And trust me, when you actually achieve a goal, it feels amazing, especially if it takes like years to work towards, like that one did. You know, some people are really goal-orientated and they need to have that. And that is perfect. If that's what you're like, then that's going to work for you. Amazing, if that's what's going to keep you on track. But make sure you have realistic goals, realistic timeframes, like we mentioned before. And if you're focused on that long-term goal, then you're not going to be so concerned about falling off the bandwagon day to day, or the small things that fluctuate every single week or every single day that honestly aren't going to make much difference to a long-term goal. You know, for example, you've heard this before, you didn't gain all the weight overnight, you're not going to lose it overnight either. You know, if you have one bad meal, you're not going to gain all your weight back, because it didn't take one bad meal, bad in inverted brackets, to put on the weight. So, you know, think realistic about your goals and focus on those rather than thinking about what's happening right now. All right, so point number 5, and this is something that I'm really, really passionate about, and you'll hear me bang on about all the time. Do something that you enjoy. Do not just do something because somebody's told you it's good for you, or it's going to get you results faster, or that you think that you have to do it. For example, you feel like you have to go and run on a treadmill because that sort of was common back in the day. So you're going to do an hour that you absolutely hate on the treadmill. And this is only if you hate treadmill. Some people love it, and that's totally fine. But don't go and do something just because you feel like you have to and you're not enjoying it. That is a surefire way to get yourself bored and demotivated and basically falling off whatever track you're on to get to where you want to be. Do something that you enjoy and it will just change your life, trust me. So for example, with me, I did HIIT to start with, and I do really, really enjoy HIIT. But then when I got into calisthenics after I'd lost most of the weight, that was like a complete turning point as well for me, where I found such a passion for the type of training that I was doing. I made friendships, I built a life around it. Honestly, I can't tell you just I didn't even think about fat loss, I didn't think about nutrition, I didn't think about tracking anything. I literally was just enjoying and loving what I was doing, and there was so many benefits that came along with it. So for me, one of the biggest points is just finding something that you're passionate about, finding something that you enjoy and doing that. So again, it becomes a lifestyle and not a slog that you're just trying to work on constantly. You know, there is no right or wrong form of training. You know, if you enjoy ice skating, go ice skate. If you enjoy rollerblading, rollerblade. If you enjoy swimming, dancing, you know, I've done dance tutorials on YouTube before. I'm an awful dancer, like awful, but I'll do them. But just do something that you love. I can't get it across enough. While we're on the topic of doing something you enjoy, please don't cut out foods that you enjoy. You don't need to. There's no such thing as bad foods, good foods. We can go into this in more detail at some point else, but ultimately, if you want to eat chocolate, if you want to drink coffee, if you want to have a glass of wine, if you want to have pizza, whatever it is, have it. Just be mindful, if you're on a calorie deficit, of ways that you can incorporate that into your diet in a nice, healthy way. So that might just be portion control, reducing snacking around those meals. It might just be swapping out one snack, so you're still having that chocolate bar, but the other time that you're going to have a snack, you might have a herbal tea or something instead, or a black coffee. So, you know, there's loads of different ways you can do it, but still incorporate those, because if you suddenly go to cutting out everything that you enjoy and doing all this exercise and changing your life completely, it's probably going to make you quite resentful, and that's going to lead to a lack of motivation, and ultimately you'll probably just be like, you know what, it's just not worth it. And then heaven forbid you step on those scales and you've gained weight. That's just going to be a recipe for disaster, even though, again, it doesn't mean anything, but you know what I mean. So incorporate the foods you love and find a form of movement that you enjoy as well. You know, literally anything it can be. So those are two really, really important ones. All right, guys, this is one that I experienced quite a lot, and I think a lot of people don't mention or don't talk about. Be mindful of who you spend your time with or who you give your energy to when you're going through a weight loss or physical transformation. You need to be around people that are supportive. You need to be around people that are positive and who aren't going to try to push you back towards your previous lifestyle. What I mean by this is, and I don't want to say that you need to cut people out, because you don't, but something that I experience a lot is you get people who will deem you as being obsessive because they are used to a certain type of person you are, and they don't realize that, you know, you're not obsessive, you just changed your priorities a little bit, and suddenly, you know, your nutrition or your exercise, your movement, your day-to-day living, your priorities have just changed a little bit. Those are now slightly higher up on the priority list than perhaps they were before, or you've just altered your views on them, but they will tell you you're obsessive, and that could either just be demotivating, but, you know, just a little bit annoying, or it can actually make you start to doubt yourself and think, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Also, you will just get generally people that don't like what you're doing. I don't know whether that comes down to jealousy, honestly, sometimes people are jealous that other people are prioritizing their health, and I'm not saying they're jealous of me, for example, but they just in general, they can be jealous of how driven someone might be, and that can be in a workplace as well. You know, it doesn't have to be weight or fitness related. You might get that, or you might just get people who they just want to bring people down. They don't like to see positive change as much. It makes them feel a little bit worse, so they will say like negative things, or they'll just act in certain ways that it just kind of brings you down. You just feel that negative energy or vibe around you that just kind of puts you off a little bit. So just be mindful of how much time you spend with these people, and this can come from friends, family, people that you work with, you know, all types of places. So just be aware of what's going on around you. Another one on that point, and this was also quite a big one, is that I feel like when you're going through a weight loss journey, fitness transformation, we look to externally validate what we're doing. So we're looking for people to say, oh, you look amazing, you look like you've lost weight, oh, your clothes look bigger, like you look like they're baggy on you, or wow, you seem so much stronger and fitter than you used to be. And yes, sometimes you do get those comments, but often you don't, and you just want someone to notice, you want someone to say something, and that kind of keeps your motivation high. But what you need to then do is turn it to yourself, and you should be able to internally pep yourself up and know that what you're doing is for the greater good, and be your own cheerleader, because don't ever expect other people to be your cheerleader. You know, I remember when I was losing weight, I don't think anyone even said anything for the best part of 2 months. And then the first person that ever said anything to me was somebody who hadn't seen me for those 2 months, and he was someone I worked with, and he came into where I worked, and he was like, oh, you look like you've lost weight. And that was the first time that anyone said anything to me, and yeah, it made me feel good, but if I had relied on that the whole time, I probably wouldn't have got as far as I'd got. I literally just changed my mindset, and I was like, this is it now, this is my life, this is not changing. It doesn't matter what anyone says, doesn't matter how anyone tries to convince me. I tried to take it upon myself. Just the determination to get to where I wanted to be was just so strong. No, I actually never really told anybody that I was looking to lose weight. I just sort of kept it to myself and just kept working and grinding in the background, and eventually after time people started to notice, but it did take quite a long time. In fact, one of the biggest motivators with me was I was at work and someone said something, like it's just a random stranger, said something nasty to me, and that was like, okay, game on. It was like such a motivator for me. And no one knew that I was in the process of changing my life, and I didn't expect anyone to be like, oh yeah, you're doing amazing, and keep me going. I had to be that person, so you need to become that person too. Alright, so the next one is more of a nutrition-based one. So meal prep or plan your meals in advance. Just be more organised with your day-to-day life if that's going to help you. So for some people this isn't going to work for them, and that's totally fine. I personally didn't meal prep too often, but I did plan my meals a little bit better. So I kind of had an idea of what I was going to eat and when I was going to eat it, and I made sure I took my lunches with me. It's not the best way to look at it, but sometimes you do have to treat yourself like a child. So when we're younger and you have your lunch and then you go, to your parents, I'm hungry, I want something to eat, and they go, no, you've had your lunch, you can wait till your dinner now, and you're kind of grumpy and maybe kick off, have a tantrum about it. But ultimately you didn't really need the food, you're just bored or you're thirsty or whatever it might be. Sometimes you just have to treat yourself like that as an adult as well, at least until you break through this little sort of plateau of your mindset. And so for me, that was a really good way of getting over it. And to an extent, I sometimes still use those techniques, but I would not take my card with me. So I'd just take what money I needed to if I was going out to buy food. But if I was heading into work, I would try as often as possible to prep my meals and take them with me. So I had my meal and I had no reason to go to a cafe and buy like a coffee and then maybe an extra muffin or something else to go with it. I mean, eventually it became easier and I didn't need to do that, but definitely at first it was something that helped me out a lot. You probably hear this all the time, and it's a really, really good point. Don't grocery shop when you're hungry, because when you're ravenously hungry, you're just going to want to eat everything in sight. And I still do this. I'll go in, I'll just I just want to eat everything, grab it all, get into the car. Like I'm walking through the supermarket car park and I'm unpacking chips or crackers or whatever it is and like stuffing them down my mouth. But when I'm actually satisfied and I'm not hungry and I go supermarketing, I'm much more rational with my choices, and I definitely don't spend as much money as well. So try not to do your grocery shopping when you're hungry, and that will help you out with sticking to your nutrition and ultimately staying motivated throughout. And lastly, and this is something that I am awful at, she says as she holds a coffee and drinks the 7th coffee of the day, drink plenty of water. So it will just make you feel generally a lot healthier, and trust me, the next day you will be grateful that you did it. But try to get your water in, okay? So it's really important if you're going through a fat loss, weight loss journey, and if you're training, that you're getting adequate water and hydration into your body. You know, our bodies really, really need that hydration, and we're going to use that magic word, consistency. Drink plenty of water every single day. One day is not going to cut it. And this is as much for you as it is for me, because I'm really bad at it. But just one day of drinking a lot of water is not going to cut it. But ultimately, for weight loss and just for overall health, drinking plenty of water is really beneficial. And if you're seeing all those positive impacts, it'll keep you motivated as well. So drink plenty of water. Okay, we're nearly there. We've got 2 more points to go. So second to last one is going to be keep yourself busy. So day to day, you know, if you're sitting around and you're not really planned much, you've maybe go for an exercise session in the morning, half an hour, something like that, and then you've got nothing planned for the rest of the day, and you just sort of sit in front of the TV, that's totally fine, but you're more likely to snack, or if you're the type of person, if you're like me, you're more likely to snack. So I like to have things that I'm doing throughout the day that will keep me busy. So if I am busier, for example, if I'm at work, and as a self-employed person, this is kind of the epitome of keeping myself busy, because I do struggle with snacking a lot. I mean, there's nothing wrong with snacking, but I take it to an extreme level. But if I keep myself busy and I make myself a routine throughout the day, and I'll sit down and do a set amount of work for a couple of hours, I realise those hours have gone past, I haven't even thought about food. Yet when I'm just sort of sitting around, I'm like, I'm near the kitchen, I'll just grab myself a snack, and I need to go grab myself my water bottle from downstairs, I'll just grab a snack while I'm there too, and you can see how it starts to build up. So if I'm busy, I go out and see friends, I will do some work on the computer, whatever it might be. If I'm keeping myself busy for the majority of the time, I'm not thinking of food as much. So therefore, it becomes more of a habit that I don't need to snack as much, because I genuinely snack not because I'm hungry, it's literally just boredom and maybe a little bit of greed. But you know, there's nothing wrong with snacking, but I take it to an extreme level. So keep yourself busy, and you know, try to occupy yourself so you're not constantly thinking about food if that's what you struggle with. Okay, we've reached the last one, and that is educate yourself. So sort of like the first one, understanding the basics, education is going to be really, really important to keeping you on track, keeping you motivated, and just helping you understand what is happening. So, there is so many resources, we're so fortunate nowadays that the internet is sitting there and it's got a lot of information. Now, don't get me wrong, the plethora of information that's available nowadays can be really confusing, and it can actually overwhelm you and push you off track. So be careful about the information that you're consuming. However, do try to educate yourself on some of the fundamental nutrition principles, some of the exercise training principles, some things about psychology, mindset, motivation, and all that sort of stuff. It's all out there for you to learn. And if you understand something, it will keep you on track, and you'll be able to rationalize small changes, small things that are happening throughout your journey, and keep you dedicated and on track to that long-term goal. So educate yourself. Like I say, there is so many amazing places that you can go now and find out information that you want. So what I'll try and do is I will link some down below, some maybe good training references, some nutrition places that you can go to, but obviously government websites are always going to be a really good place to start. Even scientific journals, if you can read papers, you don't have to read all of it, but once you learn, you're educated about a topic, it will make it a lot easier. I'll give you an example, and it's completely unrelated to weight loss. I used to suffer with hypochondria, medically diagnosed hypochondria, really bad. I was petrified of health. I was petrified of anything and everything going wrong with me. I didn't understand it at all. I was just scared of my own body. I thought I was going to die. I went to university and I studied science. And I remember when I started my degree, I was really scared because I thought, well, if I start learning about all the things that can go wrong, I'm going to be a lot worse. So anyway, regardless, I started my degree. I did a Bachelor of Science and I majored in immunopathology and physiology and did a minor in biochemistry. And educating myself and learning about every single little biochemical change that's happening in your body and the pathology of diseases, and understanding how your body, how amazing your body is and how it can recover from disease and how it gets infected or it spreads. Actually, it made me so much more rational, and so I just understood the process so much more. And basically my anxiety and my hypochondria slowly fizzled away with a lot of work. It fizzled away, and I now am one of those people that somebody will come up to me oh, I'm really worried about X, whatever it might be, cancer or this, or I've got a headache and I'm really stressed. And I'm the person now who's oh no, don't worry, you'll be fine. Whereas before I would have been headless chicken. But it all came down to understanding the concepts and understanding things that I just didn't understand, because the unknown is so scary. So if you understand something, you will be able to rationalize what's happening, and you'll be able to stay on track and trust the process. Again, like we said in the first point, just trust that process and know that what you're doing is working. So you don't even need to think about what's happening day to day. You don't even need to think about whether this exercise session has burnt 400 calories or not. It doesn't matter, because ultimately you're going to get to your goal because you know what's happening. So educate yourself. I'll put some resources down below, and hopefully you'll find them really helpful. Alright guys, that is it. That is my top tips on motivation. I hope you found them helpful. Ultimately, motivation is quite an extreme emotion, and realistically you can't rely on being motivated all the time to get you to where you want to be. What you need to think about is the fact that this is now your lifestyle. So create a lifestyle that you can maintain and that you enjoy, and that will keep you determined and gritty enough to get to your long-term goal. And there's a TED Talk, I mentioned this in my ebook. There's a TED Talk about what was the single trait that was deemed to be the biggest indicator of success in life, and it was grittiness. So people that can get knocked down and just get back up, dust themselves off and keep going, and then get knocked down and they'll do it again. And that's what you really want to tap into. You just need to be determined. So to be determined, look at all the points that we've listed, educating yourself, understanding the fundamentals, creating a lifestyle that you enjoy. That's going to keep you determined and gritty regardless of what happens, when your motivation is up and when your motivation is down, because it's bound to happen. It's just one of those things, and obviously I've experienced it myself, and I'm sure all of you have in some regard in your life as well. If you guys have any of your own tips, I would love for you guys to add them down to the comments below, because everyone else can see them as well. So it's great to be collaborative and to share each other's ideas. I'm sure you guys have got some that I haven't come up with, and I would love to hear them. I could potentially add them into another video as well. So that would be awesome. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.